Welcome to Deb's Truth Journey. If this is your first time stopping by our channel, we encourage you to click the subscribe button and become a truth seeker with us. Now, let's get into today's video. We are continuing with our subject, 4 Keys to a True Understanding of Race. The subject today, mutations.
Well, melanin is probably the primary way that your skin protects the DNA in the underlying tissues. One of the things that might not be apparent to you is that DNA can mutate.
The team then isolated the gene responsible for skin pigmentation in the zebrafish and showed that a mutation caused the golden variety's pale skin. Surprise! They found a very similar gene, SLC24A5. Now, Dr. Cheng had to show that humans had a mutation comparable to that of the golden zebrafish that would explain lighter skin in people. In the HapMap catalogs, these circles represent the frequency of the gene's various mutations in 4 populations: European, Chinese, Japanese, and Nigerian. The researchers' job consisted in finding a group made up of a circle of one color and 3 circles of another. One day, they hit upon just such a combination: 1 blue circle for the European population and 3 red ones for the other populations.
It was a very striking finding.
The mutation identified in the circles consisted in a unique change: A for the European population, which becomes G in all the other populations. The letters A, C, T, and G represent the building blocks of DNA. One tiny change among the hundreds of thousands of possible combinations in the human genome. The researchers then showed that the gene played a central role in the evolution of European skin color. It was like winning the lottery. By showing that the original skin color of humans was black and that whiteness is a recent mutation in evolutionary terms, it doesn't contradict it. It's also a way of saying that whatever our skin color, our ancestors were black.
We are about to start our last section of the series. But first, to recap, we talked about the sun and how important the sun is for living organisms, and also how the sun can be harmful to living organisms. We talked about DNA and how it controls, and it's like the CPU in the body, and it controls every part of the body, and how it has a kryptonite. It's the sun. Then we went to melanin. And the number one thing about melanin, it is kryptonite to the sun. So the sun can harm the DNA, but melanin can block it. So now we're going to talk about mutations and what actually happened that brought us to the many different colors of mankind we see today. So what is the difference between evolution and mutation? Mutation is a change in a gene's DNA sequence that produces something different. Now, evolution, I included the definition of evolve because evolution is a form of the word evolve. So to evolve means to develop gradually. And evolution means the gradual development of something, especially from a simple to a more complex form. So mutations are essential to evolution. They are the raw material of genetic variations. Without mutation, evolution could not occur. So, and I included this because evolution has always been some big ethereal sounding word to us. We've always been taught, well, this is the result of evolution, and due to evolution, this happened. And evolution is summarized at the bottom. Mutation is the actual event. That's the changing of the DNA. Evolution is an overview of the process of multiple events, multiple changes in DNA, multiple mutations is what's called evolution. Evolution is nothing in itself. And I thought that was pretty interesting to learn that. What are some causes of mutations? Well, UV radiation, X-rays, chemical causes would be cigarette smoking, things we eat, things that we put on our body, on our face, and all on our body, on the outer part. Infectious agents is another one, and that could be viruses and disease that go within our body, or even something that we put in our body that cause a virus or disease. So those are things that cause changes in the mutations. So we've talked a lot about UV rays and outer causes, but there are things on the inside that can cause mutations as well. Now, we're going to look at a mutation that causes skin lightening. It is called albinism, also known as oculocutaneous albinism, or OCA. Now, oculo means eyes. Cutaneous means skins. So albinism is something that generally affects the skin and the eyes, as well as the hair, but it has a marked effect on the eyes and the skin. It says OCA is a group of inherited disorders of melanin biosynthesis characterized by a generalized reduction in pigmentation of the hair, skin, and eyes. Now let me tell you something about the hair, skin, and eyes. On the what's called the helix of the DNA, that little twisty looking ladder, hair, skin, and eyes are next to each other, are pretty close to each other on that helix. So a lot of times when something happens to one, it affects all three. That's why we always get those three together. We always hear about those three together. It's not always, but in the majority of the time, it's going to affect the hair, skin, and the eyes. Now, people with OCA have a normal lifespan, development, intelligence, and fertility. It's just the skin color is different, possibly the hair, and possibly they have vision problems. At least 4 genes are responsible for the different types of the disease. We're going to cover some more, but the 4 primary ones are TYR, which is the tyrosinase, the OCA2 gene, the TYRP, which is tyrosinase protein, and the MATP, which is also known as the SLC45A2. Now that one is similar to what we talked about when we talked about the Dr. Chang and the zebrafish and the research they were doing. They found that not this one, but the other one, LC24A5. Those genes are the ones that were flagged as being more dominant in Europeans. But we'll get into that. Inside the melanocyte. This is where all the skin lightening stems from, this area here. The color of our skin, period, comes from this area called the melanocytes. That's where melanin is, and depending on the production of the melanin and the output determines your skin color. Everybody was intended to have dark brown skin, and I've already told you all the reasons why our skin was that way, and it was a super shield. But mutations happened within them in mankind. Unless you stick to the recipe, I'll say, things are going to go differently. And in this case, inside the melanocyte, we see that the melanogenesis process starts with AMISH, the A-melanocyte stimulating hormone. It starts there. And in that process, it goes from there, and the MC1R gets added to the mix. Now, I'm saying this in my terms because science is, again, not my strong suit. But in the process of that, if something happens and MC1R doesn't get mixed in right there, like there's something with this ACIP, this is a Goody signaling protein. If it hijacks that MC1R, it becomes pheomelanin. And pheomelanin, I don't even know why it's called melanin at all, because it's definitely a mutated form of melanin with really no power. But the process for the actual eumelanin is it goes from the AMSH to the MC1R, and it goes down here to the tyrosine. And from the tyrosine, it goes to the tyrosinase. Now, right here, this is another point where it gets hijacked. There are a lot of points where there's the mutations, but these are the most primary ones. Right in this part here is a change. Because if this doesn't get in the mix, the tyrosinase, then that person does not have the ability to produce any kind of melanin throughout their life. And that means they'll be born with white hair, very, very pale white skin, and they'll also have an eye color that'll look reddish or something like that. And that's because there'll be absolutely no melanin at the back of the iris. And that's what gives our eyes the color, the amount of melanin that's in the back of the eyes. If you have the amount you're supposed to have, you'll have brown eyes. If it's diminished, you may have green eyes. If it's even little to almost none, you could have blue eyes. That's how the mutation process works. And all through here, you go to the different steps, you'll see these on the side. These are the primary proteins and different things that are involved in the skin lightening. TYR, tyrosinase, TYRP, tyrosinase protein, OCA2, which is called the P gene, and SLC45A2, SLC24A5, and the MC1R. Now, every time that MC1R is involved, there's red hair. That's where red hair comes from, that MC1R. Now, we're going to look at OCA1. There are 4 common forms of OCA, but lately, in the last few years, they've come up with 4 more. So we're going to touch on all 8 of them. So OCA1 is what happens, as I said, when no TYR, that TYR gene means no tyrosinase is in the mix. It goes through that first step and it goes past, no tyrosinase is added. It's like nobody added flour at that point, and it goes on down the assembly line to the next form. It still follows the process, but the fact that that TYR gene is missing, absolutely no melanin is produced at all, no actual melanin. And these are pictures of what the outcome will be. White hair, very, very pale skin. The eyes are reddish looking, iridescent, different colors because there's absolutely no melanin in the back of it. Okay, now we have OCA2. OCA2 involves a mutation in the OCA gene, also known as the P gene. And the symptoms of this is people with this form of albinism often have light yellow, blonde, or light brown hair, creamy white skin, light colored eyes, and problems with vision. That's something I forgot to mention in OCA1, definite problems with vision. Now, I want you to, as we go through these, look at these faces. I know you see faces like these all the time. And you probably, with the exception of the black people, you probably never even thought that these people were albinos. Plain and simple, all white people have a form of albino. Albino is primarily the skin lightening. Now you see this one with the red hair here. That means you could have this OCA2, and it could also include mutation in the MC1R. And that will give you the very pale skin, but your hair will be red. And that is a mutation that's on chromosome 15. And number 3, this one was really interesting to me because in doing this study, I found out OCA3 is something that I believe my dad had. Because when my dad was much younger, he looked like this man, the man here holding the baby. He looked like this. His hair was very red. It got a little darker later in life, but my mom says that's what he looked like. And this involves a mutation of the tyrosinase protein. And also you can see from the red hair that there's something in it that the MC1R has to be included to give this red hue. Characteristics of OCA3 is rufous or red OCA with brick red, bronze, or mahogany skin, and ginger or reddish hair. Now, this form of albinism is very common amongst Africans, sub-Saharan Africans. But it does happen in other ethnicities, as you can see from these pictures. OCA4 involves a mutation in the SLC45A2, which is also known as the MATP, membrane-associated transporter protein. And the result of it is very fair skin, white or light-colored hair, blue or light-colored eyes, nystagmus, which is rapid eye movement, and this OCA is more common in Japanese ethnicities. It's in Japanese, but all these happen in all ethnicities, but it happens more among certain groups. Now look at these pictures. They look like people you know. And this OCA4 takes place on chromosome 5. Recently recognized OCAs are OCA 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now OCA 5, affected individuals have golden colored hair, white skin, and some visual problems that occur. The same visual problems that occur as in OCA1. The gene responsible for OCA5 has not been located, but they have determined that it is on chromosome 4. OCA6 involves a mutation in the SLC24A5 gene. Now let me point out that this is a gene that was listed on that video for Dr. Chen from Penn State University, the research they were doing with the zebrafish, and they went through all of these, going through these changes, trying to find one incident where one group, there was 4 groups. It was Europeans, Nigerians, Japanese, and I can't remember the other group. But anyway, they want to find out one place where one group stood out totally different from the other 3, that the other 3 would have the same thing, but one group did not. Well, in their findings, they found out that this SLC24A5 was the mutated version was only in Europeans. Now, the symptoms of this is characterized by having golden to light to dark brown hair, white skin, and brownish irises, and has been classified as autosomal recessive ocular albinism. That says a lot. And it is on chromosome 15. Okay, now the last 2 are OCA7. Involves a mutation on the C10ORF11 gene, which codes for a protein of the same name. The characteristics of this one is blonde to dark brown hair and skin which is more hypopigmented than parents. Meaning they're going to be a lot lighter than their parents. Individuals have the vision problems, nystagmus, iris transillumination, and this mutation is on chromosome 10. The last one, the newest discovery in OCA, involves a mutation with the DCT, dopachrome totamerase. I think I really messed up that last part. Dopachrome is a key part of the mix. If a mutation happens at that point, an enzyme that codes for TRP, which is described as tyrosinase protein 2. It is characterized by mild hypopigmentation of the skin, hair, and eyes with moderate reduction of visual acuity and nystagmus. I'm doing some harm to some of these words. OCA is located on chromosome 13. What I want you guys to really take note of is the picture. The pictures, and all these pictures look like people we know in various ethnic groups and stages of life. Man was not created or formed to have this light skin. We didn't have sunscreen way back in the day. So it would have been a lot for them to be in the Mediterranean with this light skin like this. So dark skin is not, as I always say, it's not because the Lord was walking in the garden in the cool of the day singing, "Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud." It's a super shield to protect his creation. It's a super shield to help us to subdue the earth. It's a super shield to keep our body intact. I firmly believe that if there had been no mutations affecting our DNA, that we probably would live forever. Now, the next thing I want to look at is coveted European traits that are actually mutations. Now, we've been taught to believe that blonde hair and blue eye was a schizo, straight up, but they're mutations. Now, by them being mutations does not, as I started this off saying, that doesn't mean something's wrong with you because you have this, but what it means is you don't have a super shield. What it means is that you don't have God's ultimate for you. Ultimate form of protection for you. Now, rather than appreciate that, our world has made God's form of protection, his ultimate protection, a bad thing. The attempt to turn, that's why I always figured, how could you hate something so much and not have a reason? And I've never heard of a reason why black skin is hated until I started this study, because I came to the conclusion that the hate is at a level that's evil. There's something else behind it. And now I'm learning why. Because there's so much power in melanin, and forces would rather we not know of that power. Maybe you don't have as much power as that dark-skinned person next to you, but if you can tan, you have power. You have some, you can use it. But light skin is a mutation, not the way the Heavenly Father originally made. And for you atheists, not even the way it evolved from the dust of the ground. Blonde hair is a mutation. Red hair, straight hair is even a mutation. Straight hair is a mutation. I'm not even going to attempt to say what the name of this gene is, but you see it. And you can Google any of this and bring it up and then start your study from there. Blue eyes, green eyes, and freckles. Freckles is the clumping of the melanin under your skin. The melanin did not smooth out clearly. It clumped here, none there. So you have these spots all over you. Now, the last thing I want to share is, this was pretty interesting. Mutations have caused lighter skins. We just learned a lot of that. But here's some of the genes that are more prone ethnically, did I say that right? By ethnicity. Europeans are the SLC24A5 and SLC45A2 mutations are more dominant in that group. The A111T, a variant, which is a variant of the SLC24A5 gene, is more dominant in Middle East, North Africans, East Africans, and South Indian. DCT, dopochrome gene, is more dominant, more prevalent, I should say more prevalent, in Chinese. And ATRN is more dominant or prevalent in East Asian. So these are just some things to get you going on understanding our skin difference and understanding that we all started from the same. We all came from the same. I have light-skinned brothers and sisters. I have dark-skinned brothers and sisters. But we all are straight out of Africa. We all came from the same source. You know what? I think I'm going to add a part to this. Here's a short clip from a prior video on environmental mutations.
The Chinese, their eyes, the slant of their eyes, that's environmental. That's an environmental mutation where because of where they lived, it was, from what I read, and I hate to quote these and I'm not showing you the information behind it, the references behind it, but I'm going to ask you to Google some of these, search yourself. But there's everybody's born with a thick piece of skin, ecamphithol, I can't think of the name of it, across the eyes. And when we're born, as you're formed, our nose, the black nose and the white nose, the bridge of it comes out enough that that skin is kind of like evened out. Whereas with the Asian people, they have a much smaller nose and it does not come out. So what looks to us like slanty eyes is more or less extra skin across the eyes that makes the eyes look slanted. White people have a steeper nose because they are more in a colder climate. They were Europeans. So in order for the body has to heat up the air before it can go into the lungs. So their nostrils are tighter. Whereas in Africa, our nostrils are wider because of the heat. And that's always just so fearfully and wonderfully made. And God is he allows our body to adapt to environments so that we can be the best productive vessels possible.
But all of those changes make us who we are. And there's only one race. You cannot just keep dividing us up into groups, into racial divisions. It's one group. One group. But the important thing to know that I want you all to get out of all of this, we've got to start building up that melanin power. I don't care how much you have, build it up, because I wholeheartedly believe that it's our strength. It's the power of the Heavenly Father that He has given to us, and we need to use that. Because there's going to be an accounting when you get to heaven, when you get to wherever you're going, that this gift has been there for you all along, and you haven't used it. And that's light-skinned and dark-skinned people. We're not using it, and we're going to have to give an account for it.
With me. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, please like,